Hi everyone, David Ashby here, joining you from the BYU-Idaho online instruction recording studio. And today we're going to talk about discussion boards, group discussion boards. We're going to start with pitfalls of discussions and groups, and then we're going to go into strategies that can help you as an instructor better facilitate a discussion in iLearn 3. So let's get started. Okay, the first pitfall we want to talk about is group enrollments. So one thing to understand, we're going to actually jump right over here to groups. So if I go to more tools and go to groups, groups are interesting in iLearn 3 because groups are actually assigned to activities. And one of the pitfalls that we see most common is that instructors like to change group enrollments after that group has already been used. And so let me show you what I'm talking about. So right up here I have my group categories, and in this particular GS 120 class, group categories are lessons 2 through 5, lessons 6 through 9, and 10 through 13. This was actually done by design so that I know when I can and can't change these groups. So lessons 2 through 5, we're going to stay in that one. I can come over here and I can see what activities is this discussion group assigned to. And if I go here, I can see that the discussions for lessons 2, 3, 4, and 5 all have this grouping. So what we're trying to say is once any one of these lessons has begun, I can no longer change the group of enrollments. To go over here and click on enroll users, I could change my group enrollments. But I don't want to do that after lesson 2 has begun, because then any one of these students that participated in that lesson 2 discussion, if I move their group enrollment, they're not going to any longer be able to see what they've done, the work that they've accomplished. So basically what we're saying is once this group has been used for any assignment, I don't ever want to change that group ever again. The next pitfall we've seen pretty often is when a discussion board is set up to where students have to post first. So what we want to show you is this. If you go down here, there's options that a user must start a thread before they can read or reply to others' threads. So basically, students have to do their own work. They have to use their own thought. But what we're finding is that a lot of times students are just waiting for other students to post so they can post theirs. So if you have a class that uses a must post first discussion, make sure you tell your students about it. Make sure you tell your students not to wait for other students to post first, but to go ahead and post as soon as they can so that they can start to see other people's posts and reply to them. So strategy here, if you have a must post first, make it apparent to students. Communicate early and often to your students that they must create a post before they can reply to others or read or reply to others. All right, so let's move on to discussion strategies. To do this, I'm going to start in the discussions tool itself. And I want first to explain the organization and structure of discussion boards. And it's pretty easy to understand, but it's just different from what you may have used in the past. So first is that the top level is called a forum. So this is the forum. It's really just a folder of discussion topics. So I have a forum, a topic, and then if I go into topics, I have threads and then replies. So this is a thread right here. And if I open the thread, then people can reply. So once again, let's go back. I have forums, topics, click into topics to see threads, click into threads to see replies. So that's going to be really important to understand. Now, one thing to show you on the discussion list is I can actually collapse topics. So if I'm, maybe I'm in week 7 or 8, if I want to hide all the other discussions so that as I come through this discussion list, I just go down to the one that I'm on, that's a strategy. So maybe I'm on week 7, so I want to collapse everything up until week 7. So the nice thing is now I can just scroll down here, and the first one that I see topics for is the week that I'm on. So that's a quick way, a quick strategy to keep yourself on the correct topic. So now that you know the structure, let me show you some settings that I really like that help me view the structures and the discussions better. So I'm in the discussions tool again, and I'm going to click on settings right here. And one of the first things I want to show is the discussion list pane. And I'll show you what that does. So if I hit that box and I hit save, I'm going to come in here to my discussions tool, but I want to show you if I click into a discussion topic, The list pane lets me see my structure here on the left-hand side. So if I need to jump from lesson 2 to lesson 3 to lesson 4, it's really nice. I can see all of that and easily go from one discussion to the next. If I don't have the list pane on, I have to jump back to this view every time I want to change what I'm looking at. So list pane is definitely a helpful workflow that will make you so that you can get from discussion to discussion easier. So next I want to show you the grid view. So we're going to go back to settings and this time I'm going to turn on the grid view. So grid view is reading view is the default. Let's turn on grid view. Grid view is nice because when I click into a discussion now, so now I'm at the topic level, I get to see all the threads and replies like this. And I get to see who authored them. It's a really nice way for me to kind of keep track of what I'm seeing. And then I can just click on one and I'll get to read it down here below. And I can also move this curtain a little bit so I can read more or less. So it's just a nice way to be able to stay on top. And then I get the list view over here where I can still navigate from discussion to discussion. This is from forum to forum and topic to topic over here. One thing I've heard many instructors say is they like to use the grid view for seeing when students reply to them. So it's nice because you can see when you posted something and then you can see if there's any indented replies to you. So it's a nice quick way that you can do all of that. So that is the grid view. Once again, click on settings and change from grid view or reading view right there. And that's it. The next viewing tool we want to look at are the sorting features. The really great thing about Brightspace discussions is I can sort them in lots of ways. So if I go to the top of any discussion right here, I can view by most recent, least recent, newest thread, oldest thread, authored, subject A to Z. So use these whenever you're trying to adjust who you're looking at. Many times it's easy for instructors to get into the habit of leaving it as most recent or any other way, and then sometimes you end up replying to the same students over and over. Every now and then it's a good strategy to switch this up. All right, next I want to show you the discussion board search engine. A little known fact is that when I'm viewing the course by content and I look at a discussion through content, I get a slightly different view and there's no search engine. However, if you view your discussions through the discussions tool up here in the top navigation bar and I open a discussion topic, I can search for a student's name. So if I wanted to search for Ashby, maybe I want to search for only my own stuff. I can see anytime that any discussion thread or anything that's got my activity in it. So maybe I want to look for something that's got Jeff Furlow in there. I could do the same thing. And I can open up that discussion and I can see exactly what he's doing there. So using discussions through the discussions tool, I now have access to a pretty good functioning search engine. Another strategy I want to talk to you about is one that was never available to us in past versions of iLearn, and that was the real use of media in our discussions. So in iLearn 3, we've got a great set of tools using this Insert Stuff button and all these other tools here. I just want to talk about real quick. Insert Stuff, you've got your video notes where you can record webcam messages right to your students right inside your discussion board. There's nice strategies that I've seen some instructors use where they've only done video notes back and forth, especially on the icebreaker activities. It's a really nice way to create presence and interact and build relationships with your students. There's also really great stuff like embed codes, right? We never were able to insert embed codes before, but now we can easily just run into YouTube or wherever we want, and we can just grab embed code and come over here to our discussions and insert our embed code by just hitting paste, next, and then we get to see our video and insert it, and it's there. And it's that quick. We can grab an emoji, right? I could come over here and I could grab this image address, and I can come in here and I can insert a picture, and I can just use this URL, and I'm just going to make that a quick little emoji. And so I can make my my discussion board posts much more graphic, much more interactive, expressive of emotion. Be an example to your students on making your discussion boards a great place to interact with each other by using graphics, videos, images, text, and everything to get it all into the discussion. All right, next let's talk about discussion board subscriptions. First, I'm going to go over here to my discussions tool, right? I'm in the discussions tool and I'm going to start with settings. And I want to just double check that when creating a new thread, I subscribe to the thread by default. For me, that's really helpful. I just want to get notifications whenever anybody replies to me specifically. So once I've got that selected, then I can make sure that whenever I'm in a discussion board and I create a new thread or I respond, I automatically get a subscription alert. Another thing to know about is that when I'm in the discussions tool, I can subscribe at many different levels, right? So right now I'm looking at the whole topic here for facilitator forum, and I can subscribe to that whole topic. And when I do it here, it gives me this option to just get notifications in the mini bar, which are up here, or I can get an instant notification, which would send me an email depending on what my instant notification messages are. And I could include this in my summary of activity, which means I could also get a daily email. It just depends on how I have that set up. So that way I can subscribe to topics. But if I don't want to subscribe to an entire topic, I can come down to the thread and I could subscribe at the thread level as well. And I get this same option. So you really have to think about what you want to subscribe to. I think one of the pitfalls we've seen for many instructors is maybe they oversubscribe or undersubscribe. And I think it's going to take a while for all of us to figure out really good strategies to get to that point. But we need to be experimenting with the subscriptions in order to be able to hone in on what we really want. Now, one thing we could do is go over here to notifications. I should point this out. This is up in our profile up here, notifications. These are the instant notifications that we're talking about. And for discussions, we can choose to get an email. I've found for me, this is overwhelming. So I typically choose to get mini bar notifications only, but you guys choose what's best for you. I just want to point out one more setting that I want to make you aware of, and that is this option to include your original post and reply. Don't be that person. Typically, most people don't need to include their original post in their reply, and it just adds to the size of the discussion and sometimes makes it just feel very overwhelming. So for the most part, and just generally speaking, you should probably not have this button checked. Okay, next strategy is how to post one thread to multiple groups. So let's just say I have these 5 groups and I've got a really great prompt and I want to give it to all 5 groups, but I don't want to have to post it or copy and paste it 5 times. It's really easy to do. You just come into your topic here and I'm going to start my new thread and I just type in whatever I want to type my post in, but then down here at the bottom I can post this to other topics. And this is where I can just add all the other topics that I want. And so for this one, I'm going to add all of my groups, hit add topic, and then I'm going to post. And that's it. Now I've taken one discussion board thread and posted it to all of my groups, and now all of my groups can reply individually. All right, next up is how to copy and potentially even move your discussion board threads from one group to the next. So a really great example is, what if I'm looking in this forum here and I find a discussion that I like this one. It's got 10 replies. It was a really great discussion. It was very popular. Maybe it got lots of upvotes. So maybe I want to move that or share that with other groups. It's very easy to do. I just open up that discussion thread, click on the little arrow next to it, and click copy thread. And then I just have to choose, where do I want to copy it to? And so I have to choose the forum first. So maybe I want to choose this one. And then I have to choose a topic. So that's really what group do I want to put it in, right? Because each group has their own topic. And then I can choose whether or not I want to copy the replies. So that way I can create the entire original thread and all the replies that happen in that whole discussion. So it's a nice way to share an entire discussion with a different group. And if I even wanted to, I could delete the original post if I wanted to move the whole thing, but I think that's going to be a pretty rare case. So if I just want to copy it, I click copy, and that's it. I've taken my whole discussion thread and shared it with a group. Well, everyone, that's all I've got for this week. I hope I didn't overwhelm you with too much information. You can learn to use these discussion board tools just as well as anyone else, and you can use them to make better connections with your students and improve the learning experiences they have in your online class. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.